Greetings, duelists, and welcome to another video. So, yesterday there was a case tourney. It was a 3v3 tournament, and I piloted Vanquish Soul. I went undefeated in Swiss, and I went undefeated up until top 8. However, my teammates could not win the top 8, so sadly, that was the end of our run. I will make a separate video talking about why am I playing this deck. But I know a lot of people just want to see the deck profile. There are some cards in this deck that really are to be considered if you're playing Vanquish Soul this format. But I don't want to waste a lot of your time. I'm just going to talk about the deck. I'm going to talk about the ratios, and then I'll talk about the matchups that I faced and how I'll make a separate video talking about the conclusions that I reached for playing this deck and my thought process behind everything. So without further ado, let's begin. So if you see my deck profiles, I'm going to show the deck first and then go with explanations, and then I'll talk about other cards that I'm playing in this deck. So 3 Rosin, 3 Madlove, 3 Borger, 2 Caesar, 1 Pantera, 1 Pluton, triple Stake Your Soul, 1 Continue, and 1 Dust Devil. That's it for the Vanquish Souls. For non-engine monsters, 2 Ghost Bells, triple DD Crow, triple Ash Blossom, Kurikara. Non-engine spell cards, double Small World, Rhoda, and triple Tactic Talents. If you noticed, I've only showed 31 cards. There are 10 other cards I want to talk about. But before we go to the other 10 cards, I'm going to explain like the ratios behind everything. Shoutouts to every single Vanquish Soul player in YouTube. Like every deck profile, every premier top, every like casual player, every content creator, Jeremy Mitchell who piloted the deck and got to Worlds on top 4. All of you, I really would not have reached the conclusion to this deck if I haven't seen all those deck profiles out there. I feel like if you're playing Vanquish Soul or you want to learn this deck, you should see as many videos as possible because this deck is very, very complex and not every single player has the same mindset when it comes to this strategy. There are some trends and conclusions that are just very different with different builds. So I guess I'll talk about why I chose some certain cards. The reason I chose talents, shoutouts to Jake Quincy. He did a video on Vanquish Soul. This is a card that punishes your opponent for playing hand traps. Hand traps are very, very popular in this format. However, you don't want to see too many of this because you do have other engine cards in your deck. But just having this card exist in your main deck makes your opponent think twice if they ever get stopped by this. Or like, what if ever you use it. Rhoda is standard. Not everybody's playing Small World. However, I feel like in a deck like this one, you kind of have to play this because even though you are trading attributes and you're going in is -1, the best starter in your deck, which is the Rosin, is essentially more than a +1. So all the minuses that you're taking out of Small World are circumvented if you resolve Rosin. Also, this trades the attributes that you need in your hand for your other Vanquish Souls. And if you already have your Vanquish Soul lineup already set up, then this can search you for your non-engine cards that could just help you disrupt your opponent. I did that once against Labyrinth and it won me the game. So that's the explanation behind like the Small World. Not everybody's playing Kurikara. Some people play Kaijus. If you don't have Kurikara and you need a budget option, Dogoran, the Mad Flame Kaiju is the next best thing, in my personal opinion. Um, I really like Kurikara. Like the card is very very essential. It's a fire attribute for Stake Your Soul. If you've seen every other Vanquish Soul video, you'll pretty much understand this. Ash is standard. Best hand trap in this deck. Um, Not everybody plays DD Crow. This is my only dark hand trap in this deck. So the reason for DD Crow and not Shifter or like Vibestials is because this is a card you can activate at almost any moment, and this card is very very good against Purely. Um, I faced uh, three Pureleys yesterday on the case tourney, and through four out of my six wins, because I did got to a few game threes, was because of DD Crow. Like this card overperformed for me. I feel like in this current format, Purely and Labyrinth are two very, very popular decks, and this card is very good against both of them. This card is not good against Kashtira, but just being a dark attribute for Stake Your Soul is also very ideal, and you have other ways to just counter Kashtira, for example, Kurakara. Um, Ghost Bell is my only Earth non-engine in the deck. I really really want to respect Labyrinth, so this is the number one reason this card is here. The another reason this card is here is because even though Branded is not very popular, you have to respect that deck. So this card is also very good um, against them. It's mediocre versus Purely, and it's kind of okay versus Kashtira because you can use it against Kashtira Birth. But just it being an Earth attribute and being a card that shuts down Labyrinth was enough to warrant a spot in the main deck. I don't regret this choice, even though it was not super effective. Other options you can play, you can see other Vanquish Soul videos. Um, but that's like my reasoning behind the Ghost Spell. Um, I think the Vanquish ratios are almost standard. Some people play one Caesar. I'm playing Small World, so that's the reason for two. Another reason for that, for this, is it does come up in the grand game, and I'm not playing too many Earth attributes, so just having an extra Earth attribute to reveal off Caesar and off Panthera and Mad Love is just like very very pivotal. So I do highly recommend the second Caesar. Shoutouts to Luis Munoz and like Orta. Those are two players that are from my locals that do play Vanquish Soul, and they both like pushed the decision for me to play too. Triple Mad Love. Some people play too. I just like that it's a lower level Vanquish Soul name. That will come up when I show you like the other 10 cards. But that's pretty much it for that. Um, I don't have to explain Rasen. Some people play to continue. Um, I wanted to play the second continue, but again, shoutouts to Luis and Horta. They both convinced me to play one, and I think it was a correct choice. So that's it for the Vanquish explanations. So now I'm going to talk about the 10 other cards that I played in this deck. These cards are not commonly played in Vanquish lists. Like I saw almost every single Vanquish Soul video on YouTube, and not many people talked about these cards. This was stuff that was played in the OCG. Um, so shoutouts to OCG players as well. Um, and I feel like after the release of Soulburning Volcano, this card should be highly considered in Vanquish Soul. And the first card I'm gonna talk about is Parallel Exceed. Um, so the main reason for Parallel Exceed is because now with any Vanquish Soul name that is not Rasen, you can get to Rasen. And that is because of the existence of this card, the Battling Boxer King Dempsey. For those who don't know, this card can add you or dump you a Fire Warrior. So this will get you to Rasen. Um, one way or another. So this gives immediate playability for Parallel Exceed. There's another card in the extra deck that does give a reason for Parallel Exceed, but once we cover the extra deck, I'll get to that part. But really, really highly recommend if you're a Vanquish Soul player. I think this card is phenomenal. So if you noticed, I am not playing Droll and Lockbird in my main deck. That is like the most popular hand trap right now. Uh, I'm playing a card that fits an almost similar role. However, it's very, very different. But it is a card that is more consistent in this deck specifically. And the card I'm talking about is Impulse and Fire Attacker. So if you look at all the popular decks at the moment, a lot of them play monsters that add you cards on the board. Kashtira, Labyrinth, Purely, Dragon Link, uh, Rika. That's already just five decks mentioned, and that's not even counting the rogue decks. Um, so what Impulse does for you is that it will make it so you summon Fire Attacker, and Fire Attacker will draw you two cards and send one. So it's essentially like Fantastical Dragon Phantasme, but involving opponent adding cards. Also, another really cool note: Fire Attacker triggers when any card is sent, any card is added. It doesn't have to be from the deck. It can be from the graveyard or banished as well. So that's one important note. The number one reason this card I'm playing for this is because it is fire attribute, so it also works with Stake Your Soul for Rasen. So that makes the deck super consistent. Also, it's a hand trap that draws you two cards. So like drawing cards is very, very essential in a deck like Vanquish Soul. So that's the number one reason for this. I really, really highly recommend it. Another, I guess, funny note is that if your opponent does not know what you're playing and you start with just using Impulse, they might think you're playing Rescue Ace because Rescue Ace is not super popular deck, but it's a deck that has been seen play, so like as of late. So that's another thing to note. So before I talk about my last card, you probably noticed there's no desires, no prosperity, um, like no consistency like spell cards in the deck besides Rhoda and Small World. So my issue with desires is that it banishes 10 cards, and banishing some of your Vanquish Soul names is can lose you the duel. Even though you're getting a +1 out of it. And my issue with prosperity is it conflicts with heavy Borgar, and it also conflicts with parallel exceed, which you'll see when I get to the extra deck. So I want to play a spell card that like tutors cards, but I also wanted something that was good if you face your opponents, something that has synergy with this deck. And this card is not that good when you go second. However, if you go first against almost any deck, this card is phenomenal. And the card that I'm talking about is Shared Ride. Um, so for those who don't know, what Shared Ride does is that when your opponent adds a card, except from drawing, you draw one card. So it's pretty much draw mixed with Maxi, if that makes sense. Um, so if you look at almost every deck in the game, like they have a lot of ways of adding cards. Also, this draws you cards not only from when they add from deck, is they also if they add from graveyard. So against matchups like Labyrinth, this card is also good because if they try to use like their furnitures to grab themselves back to their hands, like Cool Clock and Chandelier, this also triggers. If they activate Ariana, this also triggers. Um, in so yeah, I don't regret this choice. I think if you're playing Vanquish Soul, you should highly, highly consider this card either in your main or your side deck. Um, this card overperformed for me. I faced like I faced Purely and Kashtira yesterday. I flipped this card against both of them, and every time I flipped this card, I won. Like, um, it's just that good. If you're going second, it's an easy side out card. That's another thing to take note of. What you can do is when you're going second, you can side out your right and just side in Rolling Lockbird. Uh, which I guess I should talk about the side deck since I'm already in here. Uh, Triple Droll, triple Nibiru, triple Cosmic, triple Evenly Mashed, and triple There Can Be Only One. Uh, if you're a Vanquish Soul player or you're just learning Vanquish Soul, these cards have already been seen play in every single, like not every single list, but a lot of lists play any amount of these. I think this card is super phenomenal this format. Um, like right now, Labyrinth and Purely are two really popular decks. I think after Dragons won Worlds, Dragons might be a little bit more popular now. Also, so this card is really strong against them. Also against Manadium and against Rescue Ace, this card is kind of ideal. And Infernoble Knights are probably going to become a little bit more popular because of Soulburning Volcano as well. So this card is also really good against Infernoble Knights. Um, yeah, I don't think I need to explain anything else. Like, I feel like if you're playing Vanquish Soul, these Nibiru is not a staple, but you should highly consider it. And Droll is like the most played hand trap right now. So, um, and Evenly and Cosmic because of back row decks. Um, so now let's go to the extra. Triple Rock, then Nightmares, Almirage, I'll talk about that in a second. Alongside Splash Mage, Decode, Talker Heat Soul, and access code. I'll put this separate. Unicorn, Baguska, Zeus, Shaka 9, Borbo, and I'll put Dempsey over here. Um, these are pretty much staple. You pretty much see this in many Vanquish lists. Some people don't play Unicorn, some people don't play Cerberus, but I think if you already know about Vanquish Soul, you know why those cards are in there. Let's talk about these cards. Um, so the existence, since Parallel Exceed is in our deck, you have ways to play it efficiently. The first one is the Kim Dempsey. I already brought it up. It's another tutor for Rosin. The second thing to note is Almirage, as well as Splash Mage and Heat Soul, and access code. So Splash Mage and Heat Soul is here because you can, if you already have your Vanquish line set up, you can use your Parallel Exceed to get into this engine. And this engine is really strong because if you have heavy Borgar on board and you're already doing the heavy Borgar draws, and you pair it alongside Hiesel, you're getting 2 draws every single turn. And that's really strong for this deck. Like, just drawing 4 cards in the span of 1 turn, it's really strong. Like, I resolved this combo twice. Once without the Heat Soul and another time with the Heat Soul, and I won both. And I won both times. It doesn't come up super often, but it is an option that you have in your deck that really raises the ceiling of Vanquish Soul. And you already know about Dempsey. Shout outs to Luis Munoz. He told me that under Droll, you can still use Dempsey to dump the Rosin, and if you have Continue from Dr. Matlove, you can bring it back on your opponent's turn. So that came up one time and it won me the game. So yeah, this is the Vanquish Soul deck. Like yesterday in Swiss, I faced Purely, Rika, Kashtira, Labyrinth, The day before, I faced against Dragons, ABC, um, also Labyrinth, and there was one other deck. Um, I don't remember it off the top of my head. Oh, it was Unchained. Um, the Unchained matchup is very very scary, but this card beats the Unchained matchup. Um, Also, Kurikara is very strong against the deck. Um, so yeah, I'll do a separate video talking about why I'm playing this deck now instead of Rescue Ace and instead of Scareclaw. I hope you found this video informative. I hope you found this to your liking. Shout outs to every Vanquish Soul player. You are all killing it. And yeah, that's it. Keep practicing and keep dueling.